address the situation?
It's harder to watch, and I think for us who are working in public service, you watch in these moments and there are limitations in the system. We're not going to send US troops to fight the opponent. It's Russia. The president is not going to do that. That is what has to weigh as president of the United States.
For more on this, we're joined now by Adam Keene, Director of Complex Emergencies at the global nonprofit AmeriCares. He's joining us from Poland. Adam, it's great to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
So we are not, as we heard from Jen Psaki, America is not going to send troops. This means that what we have left to address this crisis is the humanitarian work of organizations like your own. Can you tell us what you've been witnessing and experiencing?
We've been down there a number of times, Kim and I, and seen some of those 2 million refugees that you mentioned in the crossing over the border. Cars, trains, and also on foot. In fact, we were told by someone last night at the crossing that there are more and more of the refugees coming by foot than by car because those have the resources to leave cars and have the modes of transportation have already done so. And those who are crossing neighborhoods with less means and less ability to travel safely.
It's International Women's Day, and always in refugee crises, women and children tend to bear the brunt, but this is particularly true in this crisis, given that so many young men are staying behind to fight. Can you talk to me about the specific needs that women and children will have as just sort of shocking immediate refugees in this moment?
Well, absolutely. As AmeriCares is a health-focused organization, and among the needs that we're seeing among the refugees coming across are a combination of physical ailments that they've suffered from prior to the outbreak of hostilities and some chronic health conditions like hypertension, illness, so many more casualties coming across the border that are often dehydrated. There's water. And the combination of AmeriCares is working for both aspects of their health, their mental and their physical health.
Can you say a few more words about chronic conditions? I've been thinking a lot about this in recent days for folks who regularly take diabetes medication or possibly even psychological medications that help keep people stabilized. All kinds of things that we on a daily basis simply take for granted that you can go to your pharmacy or pick up and access to it. And I'm wondering what it means, for example, particularly if you've walked across the border, to have not had access to that medication for days.
Absolutely, it's extremely dangerous. Ongoing regular medication. We have a shipment of guys that are on their way to Ukraine right now with the support of the Ukrainian American NGO. That's prescription medications of various sorts, as well as medications and other kinds of health supplies that people need. Getting the right prescription for prisoners particularly is a challenge in the circumstances. That's of course much more difficult in a situation like this, but AmeriCares and the government, for that matter, and many other non-profit organizations helping through medications, making them available and administering them when needed.
I've been struck to hear it's so many sometimes 5 days, 10 days, non-since they've had what they describe as restful sleep, just a few hours at a time. I'm wondering, I know this is very basic, but when folks really make it to safety across that western border into Poland, into these other nations, is there a way for them to rest safely, or is it still not safe at the borders?
The border areas are quite safe. once people get into Ukraine, you can see the relief on their faces. But at the same time, you can see in their eyes the anxiety, the emotion of leaving their homes and their countries. But yes, I saw in the train station and the border crossing town of Shemshir where trains are taking refugees further west into Europe. People stretched out just on the floor. Huts were set up in some places as well for people to rest and sleep. But it's crowded, it's noisy, and so it's not by any means a natural situation. But you can travel for days, often on foot, in very cold weather. If you come into a nice warm trip, you feel very comforting. And so, yes, authorities and aware of the importance of getting rest and very having just ordered about many things to be putting in place and as was a man with his family in a heavily laden car and he just looked exhausted, just sort of humped over the steering wheel, ashen face, and just Syria or your home in Ukraine, Myanmar or anywhere else. In many ways, the psychological impact of being displaced and pushed away, in this case violently, from where you've grown up, the people you know and love, and your life is extremely disruptive and unsettling in the extreme. So one of the things we learned in Syria is the importance, like referenced earlier, of combining interventions that deal with both mental health and chronic or other health conditions, physical health conditions that they're dealing with. Because we actually conducted a short research study among Syrian refugees in bordering countries in Turkey and Lebanon, and found that those who received psychological counseling services also saw improvement in their diabetes and other chronic conditions. So it's extremely important to treat both, and that applies, across refugee settings anywhere in the world.
So stop with me deeper with me on that point exactly. What does it mean to provide emergency psychological services? I mean, I suppose when I hear you talk about counseling, I think of long-term talk therapy, once a week kinds of things. And it's hard for me to imagine that in this particular crisis context.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a field of work called psychological first aid, whereby basically what people are doing is listening to the refugees. It's not a therapeutic intervention, and it's not a treatment per se. It's an opportunity for someone suffering from something like that experience and can refer them to further treatment. That's what psychological first aid is about. I think trauma psychologically that people are dealing with, which enables them to basically get on with their lives and try to address the other issues that are very pressing as well. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to find food and water? What about work? What about my family and friends I've left behind? It's a very complex emergency, and the effect of that is complex on people's bodies and minds and spirits.
Can you speak for a moment about how children react in moments like this, and particularly what we might be expecting to see relative to children's health in the long term? So even if they are able to get to safety, are not in immediate danger, from the bombing, from the shelling, what are some of the potential long-term consequences physiologically and psychologically for young people living through this?
Sure. Well, I'm not a technical specialist in this area, exactly, but I do know that somebody said once that all wars are a war on the child. And that's extremely clear now when you see children's innocence almost torn away from them. And at the same time that at the train station I was at in Chemshil the other day, that you see a child looking somewhat relaxed and smiling in relief to be in a warm, safe environment with food and water. You can also see in their eyes the kind of confusion. And I think that it's that uncertainty that underlies a refugee situation that really plays on the minds of young people in particular.
Are there ways that those who are feeling helpless in this moment, who are much more than 2.5 hour drive from the border, is there a way for people who live in communities as far flung as the United States to be helpful?
Well, I think that Ukrainians are fully aware of the global support that this conflict seems to have inspired on their behalf. And, that in itself is heartening, I think, for people who've been pushed out of their country. So lending your support in any way you can to that through participation in demonstrations and so on, and advocacy with our government to provide additional support. Of course, AmeriCares and other NGOs are also eager to do more, and at AmeriCares.org, your listeners can learn more about what we're doing and make contributions to the cause.
Adam Keene is the Director of Complex Emergencies at the global nonprofit AmeriCares. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa.
The Takeaway is supported by Indeed, a business event, a hiring tool instantly delivering to businesses a list of candidates from business on Indeed to match the job. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit. And Progressive Insurance, home of Snapshot, offers a personalized rate on car insurance based on safe driving. More at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Snapshot is not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Supporting WHYY, the Wistar Institute, committed to accelerating research advances in the areas of cancer, immunology, and diseases. The Wistar Institute announces its National Cancer Institute designated cancer center will be renamed as the Adams Memorial Cancer Center, in honor of frontline supporters of its and cancer research discoveries in your health. Information at wistar.org. Again, that's wistar.org.
You're back with Melissa Harris Perry and The Takeaway from WNYC and WGBH Radio in Boston.
We've been talking about the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine and its neighboring countries following Russia's invasion. Now, many world leaders, including President Biden, have accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of violating with this invasion of Ukraine. And they've used that violation as justification for the economic sanctions imposed on Russia. Considering that Putin has shown no sign of easing on his military aggression, it appears that so far these repercussions have had little effect on his decisions. For more on this, I'm joined now by